Well, I'll tell you one team that would rather trade their quarterback room to San Francisco in exchange for what they're getting back, and that'd be the Green Bay Packers, because there was a report this week from inside the Green Bay Packers organization. And this was, I just want to make sure I get the reporter's name right. Bob McGinn. He's covered the Packers for decades. From everything I've read from him in the brief time that I've read about the Packers, he's not really a hot take guy. Like, he doesn't just come out and flame people. And so for him to come out and say that the Packers are, quote, they are done with Aaron Rodgers, and they basically see him as, ironically, with his darkness retreat, a dark cloud over this organization at this point. They are trying to move off of him. They are seeing either if he's A, going to retire, B, if he's going to come back so they can move him. But it seems like Aaron Rodgers' time in Wisconsin is over with. And so first, before we dig into the ramifications and, kind of the whatever's going to happen, the results of this, Mark, like, are you surprised, I guess, that this is what we're hearing from Green Bay? Because it is the biggest quarterback news so far this offseason outside of Tom Brady retiring.
I'm a little surprised that we're hearing these reports. I wouldn't have been shocked if that's what they were feeling, considering, it's nothing, I don't know, it hasn't been openly, I don't know, malicious from Aaron Rodgers, but just everything that you have to go through and put up with if you're the team that employs Aaron Rodgers over the last few years, it hasn't been easy. So I'm not surprised that the Packers, I'm assuming this report is at least, mostly true. The reporter McGinnis, I know, has covered the Packers forever, and he's very respected up there. So I would imagine there's at least, a shred of truth to this. I'm not surprised that they're feeling this way. I'm a little surprised that they're speaking to, the media members or leaking it out to some members of the media openly. Because what that tells me is that they have already made up their mind that they don't see a way to kind of mend this relationship with Aaron Rodgers and, bring him back to Green Bay. Maybe it also means that they are confident in Jordan Love. Maybe if they weren't confident in Jordan Love, they wouldn't be saying these things, because they knew that their replacement was terrible. And maybe they'd be willing to put up with some more Aaron Rodgers madness. An ayahuasca trip here and a retreat to darkness there. And they'd be willing to put up with that maybe if they weren't happy with Jordan Love. And I know it was really limited playing time, but that game that Rodgers missed, I think it was against Kansas City, Love played, and wasn't bad, but I mean, didn't absolutely blow, anyone out of the water, but, looked relatively competent. And you wonder what he might do if he is the team starter. So maybe this is more about Jordan Love and the team finally feeling comfortable there. But to answer your question, Evan, yes, I am a little surprised that this is being leaked out to the media, but it seems pretty normal for the team to feel this way. That kind of seems like par for the course at this point.
Yeah, it's interesting because, and I don't want to dig too deep into the Packers, but they found a way to restructure Aaron Jones's contract. So that was a player that obviously has been a quality member of their organization that they weren't necessarily expecting to potentially get back. And then this news comes out after. I'm not necessarily sure if they're super confident or high on Jordan Love. I think it's just Aaron Rodgers got to go. Like this guy has to get out of our organization. That's what it screams to me. And so right now, if you are a team that is in need of a quarterback upgrade, however much of an upgrade you feel like it is, that is something that teams will have to weigh. And that's why we're talking about a potential, Aaron Rodgers to NFC South trip, potentially to the New York Jets, where, of course, 49ers fans are familiar with Robert Saleh and the great things that he was able to do for most of the season, really without a quarterback. But, Bob McGinn is saying basically they're disgusted with Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. And that's something you don't really hear that often unless there is some smoke behind the fire. So I personally would not want Aaron Rodgers on my team, and not just for the extracurriculars that you've discussed and that we often make light of, but because, Mark, he was bad last year. Like, objectively, like, Aaron Rodgers was not good. For the first time probably ever, I don't know this, but off the top of my head, I would guess that Aaron Rodgers in a single season has thrown 3 touchdowns or more than once, which he only did once last year. And I would venture to guess that he also, across an entire season in which he was healthy, had at least one game with 300 or more passing yards, which he did not do last season. That to me is a sign of a guy who is 39 years old and is on his way out, despite being a year removed from an MVP campaign. I guess you could make an argument that his weapons were not very good last year, although I thought he had a pretty serviceable defense. He also played in a division that, even with a 13-win Vikings team, was not all that good. So Aaron Rodgers had ways to pick up wins and simply could not, to the point where all he had to do was beat a Detroit Lions team on the final game of the regular season at home, a team that had nothing to play for, and get into the playoffs and could not do it. So if I'm a team out there looking for a quarterback, if you're looking for a one-year flyer and you're willing to roll the die, whatever seven-sided voodoo die Aaron Rodgers uses in the offseason, you are more than willing to do that. But Mark, I do not want this version of Aaron Rodgers on my football team.
No, I wouldn't either. If I'm a team that has any serious aspirations, I wouldn't. And I mean, I guess if I'm a team that doesn't have serious aspirations, why would I want an aging old quarterback whose best years are well past him? The crazy thing with Aaron Rodgers, Evan, is you laid out, how poor he was this season. He was the back-to-back two-time defending MVP of the league. Like, how is it normal to fall off a cliff that immediately? Like, was Davante Adams the reason? Are we not giving Davante Adams enough credit, for how he helps quarterbacks? Is it that? Is it a coincidence that Aaron Rodgers suddenly fell off a sharp cliff and is never going to return the year that Davante Adams leaves? I mean, I understand what you're saying, and I agree that I wouldn't want Aaron Rodgers on my football team because I'm just not confident, one, that he can return anywhere near, to his previous form, and two, I don't want the headache that comes with it. But there's got to be some team, a couple of teams out there, Evan, probably in both conferences, that say, hey, you know what? He was incredible the year before this one and the one before that. The last year was just a bad year. We'll take a chance. We'll deal with the headache for a year. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. We're only delaying our full rebuild one more year. Why not wait one more year? There are probably a few teams out there that are willing to do that because it's rare to see a player fall off such a steep cliff so fast.
Yes, but it has happened, and it has happened to great quarterbacks. The first one that comes to my mind would be 2014 to 15 Peyton Manning, who in 2014, I believe, threw 34 touchdowns, I want to say. And in 2015, the year they won the Super Bowl, he threw a whopping 9. And he threw 17 interceptions that year. He was absolutely putrid, and he went from age 39 to 40, and he fell off a freaking cliff. That is not as bad as Aaron Rodgers fell off last year, but that's the type of drop-off that we're kind of talking about, Mark. And so, look, I'm not saying that Aaron Rodgers can't be a serviceable quarterback, that he can't be a good one, because in all honesty, the one thing that Rodgers has consistently done throughout his career is take care of the ball, and that is valuable to a team that maybe has a great defense and that is maybe a quarterback away. Obviously, the Jets, maybe the Saints are looking at him as. But I can't see it. Like, if Aaron Rodgers stays in the NFC, I think that it's not a win for the 49ers, but it doesn't move the needle to me as fearing another team like New Orleans, or I don't know, even if he goes to Tampa Bay. Like, who would you rather have right now, Mark? Aaron Rodgers or Jimmy Garoppolo?
Oof. I feel like that's a loaded question.
No. Hold right there. The fact that you even say oof is where we're at right now with Aaron Rodgers, because a year ago, that's the dumbest question you've ever heard. But right now, you actually have to do some calculus and say, oh, well, Jimmy Garoppolo gives me this. At least he's a good guy off the field. Aaron Rodgers, meanwhile, is pretty good on the field, but he's not as good as you. Like, that's the conversation we're having now surrounding a guy that is a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yeah, you're 100% right. I think the answer to that question might be Jimmy Garoppolo, but I don't feel great about it. But your larger point is correct. I mean, the time of fearing Aaron Rodgers is over. There were, thoughts, this year, I know I had this conversation with you. We had it here on the 415ers, and I know a lot of Niner fans felt the same way. I don't want to see Aaron Rodgers in a playoff game. I don't want to. He can pull off some crazy magic because he's the two-time defending MVP. He's been bad all year, but maybe he pulls something out of the hat and he upsets the Niners at Levi's Stadium. I'm telling you now, the time of fearing Aaron Rodgers is gone. If you're the San Francisco 49ers, the last thing you're worrying about is where Aaron Rodgers plays football in 2023, because wherever he goes, the team probably will not be very good. And if they are, it will not be because Aaron Rodgers returned to form. It is past him. He is not to be feared anymore. And hey, the 49ers should probably hope he stays in the NFC, because that would mean an easy win if the Niners happen to play them this year. Aaron Rodgers is past his prime. He's not going to do anything of any importance in the NFL ever again. It's my opinion. And the Niners, this should be the last thing they worry about. I'm not saying that we think they are worrying about it, because they're not. But they shouldn't be. They're right not to worry about it, because this is very, very down on the totem pole of things that are affecting the 49ers in this coming season.